And there you have it, guys. After almost 2 weeks of speculating about Red Bull's finances, the FIA has now revealed that Red Bull did indeed breach the budget cap for the 2021 season. So, now the question is, what should the FIA do? Will they roll over as they did with Ferrari in 2019? What does Red Bull have to say for itself? And how does this affect Max Verstappen's 2021 title? Well, let's talk about it then. But before we do, consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on our latest uploads. Now that's out of the way, let's get started. As mentioned in the intro, the FIA has revealed that both Red Bull and Aston Martin are indeed guilty of breaching the budget cap for the 2021 season. While Aston Martin was only found to have committed a procedural breach, and it's not like their breach helped them in any wins last season, wink wink, the main issue right now is Red Bull, who was found guilty of a procedural breach and a minor financial overspend, which means spending in excess of less than 5% of the cost cap, according to the FIA. The review of the reporting documentation submitted has been an intensive and thorough process, and all competitors gave their full support in providing the required information to assess their financial situation during this first year of the financial regulations. The FIA Cost Cap Administration notes that all competitors acted at all times in a spirit of good faith and cooperation throughout the process, stated the FIA. The FIA would also note that, with respect to this first year of the application of the financial regulations, the intervention of the FIA Cost Cap Administration has been limited to reviewing the submissions made by the competitors, and that no full formal investigations were launched. The FIA Cost Cap Administration is currently determining the appropriate course of action to be taken under the financial regulations with respect to Aston Martin and Red Bull, and further information will be communicated in compliance with the regulations. According to the regulations set by the FIA, a combination of procedural breaches and minor overspend breaches will result in financial penalties and/or minor sporting penalties, which doesn't bode well for Red Bull, who have recently issued a statement themselves, where they would say, "We note the findings by the FIA of minor overspend breaches of the financial regulations with surprise and disappointment. Our 2021 submission was below the cost cap limit, so we need to carefully review the FIA's findings, as our belief remains that the relevant costs are under the 2021 cost cap amount. Despite the conjecture and positioning of others, there is of course a process under the regulations with the FIA, which we will respectfully follow while we consider all the options available to us." One avenue Red Bull can choose to take, aside appealing, is a settle agreement with the FIA, a la 2019 Ferrari. If they choose to do so, the team will have to accept its guilt, and the FIA will impose whatever penalty they deem appropriate for the offense. If this doesn't work, the dispute will go to an adjudication panel of independent judges, who will look at the case and come to a conclusion on whether Red Bull, and Aston Martin for that matter, should be penalized. Even before the news broke that Red Bull indeed breached the cost cap, Ferrari's team boss Mattia Binotto would say to the media that any form of breach, may it be minor or major, can have a significant effect on a team's competitiveness. "If there is a breach, the penalty has to be significant," said Binotto. "Our car has been developed respecting the budget cap, and we know how much even a minor breach would have implied in performance. $5 million is about half a second. 1 to 2 million is 0.1 to 0.2 seconds, which can be the difference between second on the grid pole. It is about 2021, and also, over the following seasons, I am expecting full transparency and clarity on the discussions they have had." Red Bull's 2021 rivals Mercedes and their star driver Lewis Hamilton had the same sentiments when asked about the situation this past weekend. "It's not something that I hadn't been thinking about, 2021, during this season," he told Sky Sports F1 when asked about the Red Bull budget cap saga and its impact on the title race. "I think I don't know enough about it, Obviously, there's whispers of all these things, so I can't say anything, really. But what I can say is I remember last year in Silverstone we had our last upgrade, and fortunately, it was great, and we could fight with it. But then we would see Red Bull every weekend or every other weekend bringing upgrades. They had, I think, at least 4 more upgrades from that point. If we spent $300,000 on a new floor or adapted a wing, it would have changed the outcome of the championship, naturally, because we would have been in better competition in the next race if you add it on. So I hope that that's not the case. And I just hope that I do believe Mohammed bin Sulayem and the FIA will do whatever is right with whatever they find out. So that's what we have to have faith in. Lewis would then go on to say what we all wish the FIA will be doing in the days and weeks to come as we wait what they decide to do next with Red Bull. 1000%, he said. I think transparency is always essential. It's always very important, particularly with all the fans that tune in and travel around the world. I think it's important for all of us, plus all the people that are working, the thousands. I think it's important to have transparency throughout the organization, and accountability is something that we always have to hold true to. We've seen in previous years of the sport where things have been dealt with in the background. I don't think that's the new way forward with the new way of working with Mohammed. I think integrity is very important to him, and as is F1 nowadays with a new management, so I think we have good people in place. I hope that we get the right governance. Just so everyone has an understanding of what may come Red Bull's way in terms of penalties, the regulations state that a minor breach is subject to public reprimand, deduction of Constructors' Championship points awarded for the championship that took place within the reporting period of the breach, deduction of Drivers' Championship points awarded for the championship that took place within the reporting period of the breach, suspension from one or more stages of a competition or competitions, including for the avoidance of doubt the race itself. Limitations on ability to conduct aerodynamic or other testing, and/or reduction of the cost cap, provided that the reduction specified shall only be applied with respect to the year following the punishment being handed out. Should the FIA choose to impose any penalties less or outside of these that I just listed, then the FIA has done it again. This is a situation Sky Sports F1 pundit Martin Brundle hopes does not happen again. What seems crazy to me is that a minor breach can be up to 5% overspend on the cost cap at $7 million, he said on Sky Sport F1's Any Driven Monday. We know that's a massive upgrade on a car, maybe even a B spec for some teams. So that needs tightening up for starters, because what's the point in having 140 million, whatever the number ends up being, and then having this 5% variance? So I'm assuming that the FIA will have to crack down hard on any minor breaches, but it looks like it could be a reprimand or a fine. Will they want to revisit points? Will it be manufacturer's points or driver's points for 2021? Other teams are saying, well, look, this gives you a head start into 22. The cars are carried over for 23, so this is a big advantage. It needs tightening up because the other teams will be under pressure. The team boss will be saying, why didn't you do this? Why don't you overspend a bit and pay a fine or get a slap on the wrist and go a tenth or two faster? So we need clarity, and it needs to be rigid, and a 5% variance is way too much. And there you have it, guys. So what are your thoughts now that it's official that Red Bull did breach the cost cap? Let us know in the comment section below, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't.